preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States.
He was on his way in, and this guy was on his way out. But who knew? After the stuffy ceremony, W was ready to let loose. He wasn't headed to Texas. Turns out the former big guy was going to Vegas, baby, because more than a year after this, George Bush now getting tagged for this.
I think my role is to make it as challenging an environment for the others as I possibly can. It only makes them a better employee.
Welcome, everybody. I'm Neil Cavuto, and George Bush, just call him the gift that keeps on giving and giving. Nearly 4 years out of the White House, he remains the go-to guy to blame for any trouble that happens to this White House, including that over-the-top GSA whooping it up in Vegas.
Of a roster, and I got to say, ain't no place better than GSA. Not trying to get out.
Well, we did some digging. We do that here. It turns out that spending for the GSA has jumped nearly six-fold since President Obama took office, which we calculated is about the ratio this administration has used to bash the prior administration. In other words, 6 times the blame rate of any administration in American history. Actually, no way to quantify that, but it's a rough guess. This GSA thing, just the latest, only coming after the president said this about that cylinder mess. Apparently, it wasn't his mess.
Understand, this was not our program per se.
Before that, it was the economy.
This administration has inherited a $1.3 trillion deficit.
The deficits that we've inherited.
Part of what we inherited, that's what we inherited when we came in.
So everything bad, well, this guy's doing. Anything at all good, this guy's doing. It's a former campaign advisor to John McCain, Ford O'Connell, who says, no doing. But Ford, I mean, adding this GSA thing was just sort of like the icing on the cake here.
It absolutely was. This is the administration strategy. Blame everybody but the administration. First, they decide to pass the buck on to someone else, spend the numbers to support that claim, then say, hey, we did all we could do, and hope that folks can't connect the dots. That's what they're doing. And when they actually have a successful moment, they do 3 things. They take credit, and then they make sure that every left-leaning journalist writes about it.
But, you know, I would have embraced these are federal government workers in these videos showing a lot of great talent, a lot of good possibility. I would have embraced it and owned it. I would have gone offense on government workers under this administration have a lot of sparkle to them. But it's too late for that. Where do you think this is all going?
You know, this is really all about winning re-election. And, you know, honestly, the GOP is a little bit to blame here because they're losing the message war. They're losing the message war because they're not untangling these numbers and they're not connecting the dots for the average voter. The average voter's life is extremely busy. They don't have time to dig through this stuff. And if the GOP wants to make waves in 2012, they're really going to have to beef up their opposition messaging.
You know, we've always had in every administration, Republican or Democrat, signs of, you know, abuse or ineffective or money wasting of bureaucracies, government agencies, independent or otherwise. What makes this particularly galling?
Because this administration never shoulders the blame. Look, whether it's the March jobs report, they blame the weather. Gas prices, they blame oil speculators. This, they blame Bush. At some point, they're going to have to take accountability for their actions. The question is whether or not the voter sort of wises up in the ballot box in November, because we can't afford 4 more years of the Obama administration. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit worried that the GOP isn't doing a good job messaging, and what will happen is Obama will get reelected. The voter will wake up and say, my gosh, what just happened?
I know your Republican point of view here, and that would be expected. But I guess what I'm asking is the statute of limitations on criticizing a predecessor. At what point does it get old? At what point did Ronald Reagan stop citing Jimmy Carter? At what point did Jimmy Carter stop citing Gerald Ford? You know what I'm getting at. Is there a point at which there's a diminishing return and Americans just say, enough, stop it, you're the guy?
Usually it occurs midway through the term because it takes about a year to reorganize the White House, really take full accountability of what's going on. But those 2 years have passed, and the president is really walking into a re-election, and he's still using the same old song and dance, and Republicans need to start calling him on him. The media needs to start calling him on it. Everybody needs to do it, but frankly, the Republicans just aren't doing a good job messaging, and the president's getting away with it. As Mitt Romney would say, I got to admit right now for the Obama administration, this is a marvelous strategy.
All right, Ford, thank you very much. And for those of you at home who want to know about my weight
Thank you, Neil.
thing, it is a thyroid situation. It has nothing to do with me going to Wendy's 4 times a day. Just want to get that out of the way.